that was held in Nigeria yesterday. That's the 9th of March 2019, governorship and House of Assembly elections. We've been following the story, we've been following the events from different parts of the country. 29 states took part in the governorship and House of Assembly elections, and we're in that zone of collation and announcement of results, which we'll be seeing in a matter of hours. Before we went on that break, we had General Eseka in our Abuja studio, who was talking about the threat or no threat that the social media might be posing to the electoral process in Nigeria. We still have in the Lagos studio here two gentlemen, Mr. Balazaka and the Liberal Soshoma, discussing the same matter. But before we bring it down to Abuja here, let me go back to the General Eseka there. You are a security expert. A lot of people thought that the tension was high going into the governorship race in Ogun State, but it eventually turned out that things panned out quite peacefully across the state. We've not heard of any skirmishes or anything serious in terms of violence, and so this might have put us in a place where we were unable to, even though we are happy about the fact that it turned out peaceful, it seemed to have put us in a place where we didn't have the opportunity to test the preparation of the security apparatus that we had going into the governorship election, specifically in Ogun State. What's your angle to this?
Well, what he has just described, he said it was relatively peaceful, and I'll give that to him. But you see, what you have there is what they call peace as a result of enforcement, peace enforcement. Peace enforcement is a deliberate act and a conscious effort to make sure peace exists. I would have been happier if we have grown up our democracy to the extent that we do not even have those security fears at all. So what we are seeing now in those places where you don't have security challenges are because of the enforcement of peace by security agencies and so on and so forth. So that you have enforced peace does not mean there is peace to keep. So it's a pyrrhic assessment to say that everything is peaceful. There is no... the main thing, like he actually said, is the collation. So until we finish the collation process and announce results, that will really test the efficacy of the security arrangements that are put in place in those areas. So it's too early to start saying that it's very, very peaceful and all that, because it's a process. He analyzed 4 stages. So we're in the critical stage of collation, where tensions, get rise, get high, and people, have this propensity to make, troubles and all that. So until we finish, the entire process, we cannot really say, oh, everything was, security tight and all that. So, but by and large, we have flashpoints, like we have always said. And I do not think that in the security mapping, Ogun State was one of those areas where you have, those, areas of tension. So it would have been easier if we are talking of those mapped out areas like Akwa Ibom, Benue, Rivers, and so on and so forth. But for Ogun State, it was not in our security mapping of a tense area, although it can happen from many angles. So there are these potential for conflict. There are these ones that are actually living with conflict, and there are ones that can escape conflict. Ogun State fall into those areas that is not, in our security mapping as a flashpoint area. But be that as it may, so far so good. When we finish the collation stage, we'll know whether it's a peace at the graveyard or a peace that is desirable.
Well, General, so far so good. It's been peaceful in Ogun State. But the same may not be said of some of these other flashpoint areas you've mentioned. And I want to take you back to an expression you used earlier. You said something about exaggerated security. Very interesting choice of words. Well, exaggerated security, particularly when it comes to areas where tensions and, of course, violence would always ensue. So when you say exaggerated security, are you talking about, you know, the massive deployment of forces, or the ineffective performance of security forces deployed in those areas where you expect violence, and then you definitely get the violence you're expecting?
Yes, in the last segment, last week during the presidential election session, we did talk about, you know, the deployment of military for election duties and all that. So there are so many people who, you know, are on the side of saying, oh, bring the military to engender confidence, and there are so many other people who are saying they are agents of intimidation, so on and so forth. But we must look at, you know, the constitutional imperatives that make the military operate in these areas. And Section 217C, my brother Oshoma will, you know, check me if I'm wrong, and the Armed Forces Act Section 8(1) clearly gave the military opportunity to act in aid of civil authorities. But this time around, the problem that we have always had is that we say the police is the lead agency for security duties during elections. Where they are not equipped to do this job, where they are not, you know, primed, they don't have enough strength, they don't have the weapons, they don't have equipment to do this job, and when it seems as if they are failing, the military are brought in. But nobody ever consider the complexity of the military taking over from the police. This is the reason why we must revise our obsolete laws, because it's a complicated process of the military taking over from the police. So when sometimes people say, oh, the military did not do this or the military do that, the military has to be conscious to their responsibilities. Even though they have the platform to intervene, that is aid of civil authority, it must be seen that the police are no longer capable before the military can come in. So when I say exaggerated security, you see, when there's a lacuna in our security architecture, this is what you get. You said INEC should deploy the security agencies that are brought into that place. And if the aim of deploying security is to ensure that there is peace in the environment, why will a policeman or policeman, about 2 or 3 or 1, will be in the polling unit, and there is no communication equipment with him, there is no arms with him and all that? If the idea is to scare away troublemakers, he needs to be armed. So the question of a policeman staying there without arms makes him an ordinary person. What distinguishes a police or military personnel is the arms they carry and their training. So when you put policemen around the polling booth without arms, you can what happened in Okota, for instance. One huge talk came in and was doing what he was doing. The 2 policemen, they were helpless. They were even begging him to stop. They couldn't stop. So we must know how, you know, to activate this security architecture that we're talking about. There is a lacuna. It needs to be blocked. When you say the military are 300 meters away from the polling booth and all that, what are you saying? That means when it's overpowering the police, they will be called in. So what communication equipment did you see with the police in those areas that they can easily, are they going to beckon the military to come in? So the talks and this criminal element exploit this lacuna in our security architecture. So there is need to revise our laws to make it easy for those who are going to take part in security matters to do it seamlessly without fear of, you know, fundamental human rights breaches and so on and so forth. That is why I said the other time that there must be a strategic balance between military necessity and fundamental human rights. So we are just saying security, 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 but there are lacuna in the architecture. Unless you block those lacuna and make it a deliberate thing, you know, with each of the stakeholders having input into what they are going to do, how they are going to do it, we are nowhere to be found. For instance, how do you say you have security in a collation center and somebody comes in and says, look, this is what I'm going to declare. I'm doing it under duress. So the question is, where is the security? Now, there's other incidences where people just come in and do whatever they want. They drive away voters, they scare them, they even beat them and kill some. Where is the security? So there is difference between real security in place and perceived security in place. Let us put our security in place and let it exist as a security architecture that has no lacuna.
Let's put our security in place. Of course, we know that there are challenges, and these things keep occurring every election cycle. But you begin to wonder, how about the will of the security agents in particular? I mean, that drive, to make them come out and say, okay, these are the issues that we have, and this is what we're going to do. I mean, how about the political elite? How can they work together, to sort out some of these problems?
The political elite, some of the political elites are a problem to the system. And that is why when the acting IGP said he was going to withdraw policemen attached to these political gladiators, I was very happy. Because until you withdraw these policemen from them, to be able to have enough strength to do their duties, and let them feel like you and I, and see how they can walk from their home to the police station. So by the time you remove security from them and let them feel that, yes, they are ordinary Nigerians like us, and they should be able to move from point A to B without these policemen, then they begin to understand the importance of these security personnel. The policemen need to be motivated. How do you motivate them? Their equipment, their training, and their welfare. So if they are well motivated, the police can do their duties. And this takes the burden away from the military, which is already overstretched, doing internal security duties. So the police should be equipped, they should be well trained, and they should be well funded, and the welfare of the police should be of paramount importance. So they will be motivated to do their job if all these things are in place.
Thank you, General. When we were on the other break, Mr. Oshoma was trying to make a point, but before you make that point, earlier in the day, we were having a conversation with a couple of people, and the issue of vote buying came to the picture, but there were policemen in these places. Why couldn't they stop it? And another person said, look, why would the policeman stop it when he wanted to share in the booty as well? And this is against the backdrop of the fact that just about 2 weeks ago, we saw someone who served at a high level in the Nigeria police, that the police was poorly funded.
Yeah, the issues are hydra-headed. First and foremost, we're talking about announcement of results, and then social media. The influence of social media, on information management by INEC. And I did say that the way things are going with this idea of INEC browbeating, media houses and, everybody, don't announce results until we announce them.
But it's the law.
Yes, but also INEC needs to, be up to date, because the way it is going, also people are beginning to look at with the allegations of manipulations on the side of INEC. Also people are beginning to look at it that, look, this idea of browbeating people, don't talk about the result until we announce it, might also be an opportunity for INEC to begin to manipulate figures. And so if INEC does not up their game, it will get to a point that even media houses will begin to collate results before INEC. If you remember in 2014, in Osun, the Osun governorship election, the state governor had to deploy, electronic billboards at every polling unit. And so once the results are announced at those polling units, they are displayed on those billboards. So it is so that everybody, including media, were aware of all of these results at those polling units. So when the figures do not tally with the publicly displayed figure, this is in spite of, INEC's position. So if at the collation centers, the figures do not tally, then that means there's something amiss. And also that brings me to the issue of insecurity. Like General has said, most of the challenges are not, identified during voting. There you have some skirmishes during voting, ballot box snatching, but you find out that it is after collation and announcement of results that in most cases you hear, people who are not happy with the outcome of the results, contesting, and then also there are, violence and demonstrations or riots in certain places. So we are still at midway through the process. So you really cannot, say that the security that was put in place or that we also have not been able to test our security apparatus and then architecture. And then for Ogun State, for example, Ogun State, a lot of people, are skeptical or that the security fears are heightened because you have a sitting governor who has contested an election on the platform of his party, and then his political associates is, on a different party. And then you also have his own party now, a candidate from his party in that election. Then in the main opposition party also in the state, you have two factions. And, with the attitude of our politicians and then also want to resort to mischief if elections don't go their way. So a lot of people also are not too comfortable. And like we say in Nigeria, it is better to be careful than sorry. And then finally, on the issue of vote buying and security, policing, and the challenges. If you are given a police form today, please come join police. No decent Nigerian wants to enroll in Nigerian police because of the way we treat our Nigerian police. We see the police as, the dredge of the wretched of the earth. And so when you treat your police that way, people are bound to, see them as, beggars. A situation where you send police on policing duties, there are no impressed, there are no trainings, even the equipment in some cases. In fact, sometimes I see a Nigerian police, it's almost as if we've turned them to beggars. Oh, God, we're on the road, oh, your boys are here.
Yeah,
anything for the boys, happy weekend. Ordinarily, that's not supposed to be. And then you find out in some of the cases also, the police is, the psychic of the average policeman is, frustration. And then some of them, because of the way they are recruited, you see a policeman at the polling unit is smelling of alcohol. You see a policeman in uniform, he's drinking. And because they are underfunded, I've had situations where I had to donate generators to a police station. You get to a police station, there is no light, there are no generators to power the fans. In places where there are generators, there are no money to buy fuel. In some places, they had to buy their uniforms. They buy statement form. They buy almost everything. So when you have such a policing, it becomes police for the highest bidder, where even to submit petitions, you have to pay for approval of petitions. So when at elections like this, it becomes very easy for police to want to be part of a process, knowing fully well that, look, if I go, if there are processes of negotiating, I might get something. So all of this, we need to look at our police architecture. And that's why it is very easy for us to call on the army or let the army come to our aid. But the way we are going, if care is not taken, the way we have rubbished our policing, if the army allows itself to be used the way we use our police, in no time we'll also rubbish the Nigerian army like that we won't have respect for them. One would have expected, take for example, in 2004, a police officer was killed in Bradford. And then there was this debate in England whether police should be allowed to bear arms as of right. And then the Metropolitan Police Chief his opinion was that it shouldn't be, for the fact that a police officer was killed, should not just be the issue of allowing police to carry arms shouldn't even be debated at all, because there is a psychology behind bearing of arms. And a policeman who is not properly trained to bear arms should not be given arms. Instead, you should equip that policeman to be able to call for backup when there's crisis. But here, you give a policeman a baton, or in some cases no baton, and then you think, like Fela said, uniform na cloth, na tailor this one. You think by the time he's at the polling unit, the criminal or that man who wants to snatch a ballot box sees the policeman will be frightened. Even today or yesterday at my polling unit, it took the intervention of the patrol DPO, to chase away some boys who were funny looking. Otherwise, the policemen that were at the polling unit were just sitting there helpless.
Yeah.
You know, because if care is not taken, you really don't know what that boy that you're going to confront, you don't know what he's carrying.
Mr. Oshama, okay, the practical side of policing, but then, Mr. Zaka, I'd like to ask you this. Where is the role of intelligence in all this? I mean, we're talking about the military, we're talking about the police. What about the intelligence services? Where do they fit into all this?
Well, first of all, ordinarily there is supposed to be what we call cross-fertilization of intelligence and knowledge. And I think the general has explained everything. You know, the police is not well treated. I mean, I feel sad. Strange enough, I mean, my dad was a military man, right? I'm a son of a soldier. But I feel very sad, you know, with the way and manner the police is being treated in Nigeria. I mean, it's very strange, and this is very practical now. I mean, just to corroborate some of the things the General was saying. It's very practical. You see a chief superintendent of police trying to settle an issue, and well, I belong to the civilian class, and the civilians will not listen. But if an army corporal comes there, everybody will align. And the first question I ask myself, by training ordinarily in terms of age, seniority, education, and even growth, that CSP is supposed to be a superior officer to the army corporal. But what is that thing that has happened to the psyche and training and the general thinking of the policemen or the security agencies that will make a chief superintendent of police to see an army corporal or his equivalent in the Air Force or Navy, and he will pull back and allow that person to settle the score.
All right, I guess that's where we have to leave it at this hour. Mr. Balazaka, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. You were here 2 weeks ago, and you're here again today. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Also in our Abuja studio, General Cecil Esekhaigwe, thank you for standing by us. Thank you for your angles and perspectives to the myriad of issues that we have raised. We have to let you go to sleep right now. Thank you so much. We'll take Liberal Oshama is still with us in the studio. We are taking this down to 7 a.m. With Liberal Oshama. But these two gentlemen, General Cecil Esekhaigwe and Mr. Balazaka, have to go right now. And on top of the hour, that's at 2 a.m., we'll take a break and we'll be going into our new studio to bring you news track. And at half the hour, it will be time to look at the social media on the program Poll Stream. And we'll be back at 3 a.m. to continue the program, The Verdict. Stay with us.